All right, hello everybody. My name is Bridget Laird, and I am the Chief Advancement Officer at Trident United Way. I'm thrilled to moderate the next conversation, which is titled, Stronger Workforce, Stronger Communities. So little did Sherry know she was creating a great segue to our next panel. So thank you, Sherry. As you've heard this morning, Alice families, asset limited, income constrained, employed, are the backbone of our community. Alice is child care providers, retail associates, construction crews, healthcare workers, and many more who guide and grow our economy, but at the same time are struggling to make ends meet at home. More and more employers are recognizing that supporting their Alice families is an essential element in growing and building a more productive, happy, and stable workforce. So today, we're gonna highlight a local company that has led the way with a compassionate and creative program that is a solution to building this workforce. So we have with us two individuals, and our first individual is Stephanie Brooks. So welcome to Stephanie. Stephanie is a community health nurse and nationally board certified health and wellness coach who leads employee wellness initiatives as the on-site nurse and wellness director at Banks Construction Company. Also serving as adjunct faculty in the Citadel's Department of Nursing, she believes that when businesses invest in their employees' well-being, they strengthen the health and resistance of the entire community. Thank you, Stephanie. We also have Bill. Bill is the Chief Financial Officer of Banks Construction Company, a heavy highway contractor serving the Tri-County area where he has worked since 1996, following 6 years in public accounting. In 2005, he and Banks Construction partnered with Trident United Way to launch the Thrive at Work program and continues to serve on the Trident United Way Board of Directors, champion innovative ways to strengthen local families. So today we're going to explore how data, innovation, and empathy are reshaping the way businesses care for their employees, and now those efforts strengthen our families, which in turn strengthen our entire community. So we're going to do the conversation from up here, change a little scope. So Bill, the first question is for you. How has Alice data changed the way your company thinks about supporting employees?
I'm Bill Zobel, and I just want to tie in a few things before I answer your question directly. I'm a lifelong resident here in Charleston. I grew up West Ashley. I loved hearing the reference to the Navy base. My dad was in the Navy. I was born at the Navy Hospital and went through the CRDA in the 90s, and tying it all into sitting here with you today and how our economy has changed and how supply and demand of housing and technology and the pandemic and all these factors have created this situation in Alice and what we're talking about today. So I'm really honored just to be here and talk to you about how Banks Construction Company is trying to do its part in this program. And I also want to say, first of all, this is Stephanie, but for us at Banks Construction, this is Nurse Stephanie. So that's how she's affectionately known. So that's how we refer to her. But getting back to Thrive at Work, that's a program that Banks Construction started with the help of United Way about a year and a half ago. Through the leadership of Reed Banks, our CEO, we wanted to help our employees. We saw a need that they were having difficulty in coming to us for loans for everything that we talked about earlier in this program, which was the impossible choices. As she mentioned, construction crews are part of Alice. We want to help those employees because one of the things that we also talked about in this program was the mental well-being and the stress that this causes. So what we do is we build roads, as I think most of you know. Hopefully you've seen our trucks, and you slow down in our work zones, and you treat our employees fairly and nicely when you're driving through the work zones. So I wanted to get that out there as well. In all seriousness, what we do is very, very dangerous. We're building interstates. People are driving through our projects at 60, 70 plus miles an hour, and sometimes they're impaired. So we're looking out for the well-being of our employees. And this includes the financial well-being. So if they're stressed about not being able to make those impossible choices, then that creates a distraction to them. That puts their fellow employees in danger, that puts the traveling public in danger. So there's another side of this, as some of the participants here brought up. But to get down to the basics of our program, through leveraging our partnership with Trident United Way, we've set up a fund where employees can contact Trident United Way directly and request assistance, financial assistance for those impossible choices that we talked about earlier. While they enter into the program with Trident United Way, the United Way is able to help with other resources that we've mentioned here today and other programs, including the family coaching, and offer that pathway to getting over this hump, that the financial need that they have, and then becoming better employers, better citizens, better family members, and just better people.
Thank you, Bill. And I think that that's a great perspective in thinking about employees having those impossible choices on their mind, especially when it involves safety. You're at a job where it's critical to think about safety. You don't want to have to be thinking about all these impossible choices at home. All right, so next question is for Nurse Stephanie. As an on-site nurse, how do you see health and financial stability intersecting for the overall well-being of employees and their families?
Yeah, well, first of all, I look at what I do and our employees. I look at their well-being, not just their health. And as I think everybody in here really knows, if you think about it, well-being encompasses several things. It is physical health, but it's also mental health, as Bill talked about. It's spiritual health, and it's financial health. And so I think when you really look at people holistically, I think you can look at each of those areas and see how they're very interrelated and they impact one another. And I think Bill just spoke to that well, as far as mental health and the stress of this job. And there's many employers out here who have very stressful, things that their employees are doing. But I also know that when people are struggling financially, taking care of their physical health is pretty low on their priority list, right? And so, but unfortunately, then things go untreated, and then they can be more expensive to treat later. They can take more days off work to have to treat later, which then, spirals the financial instability even worse. And so it is all related. And that's one thing I love about, I always tell people as a community health nurse specialist, I'm pretty sure I have the best nurse job in the world. That's just my opinion, because I work with a company that really cares deeply about their employees. And they have a program that is very holistic. So they are looking at the whole well-being of their employees. And I think the Thrive at Work program is a great example of that. And yes, as Bill said, please drive safely in those work zones. I'm out there visiting our crews. We're all over the low country, We have people who live in all these counties, right? And so definitely, we can have people with all sorts of things going on. And the United Way has been such a great resource, because I always tell people the United Way knows it all. They know all the resources out there. And so to connect people that may need, they may need a bill paid, but they also may need they may need some caregiver support because they are caring for a parent with dementia, right? There's so many examples like that, but very interrelated. I think all those pieces of well-being. So you really have to look at it holistically when you're considering the health of your employees, their well-being.
Thank you. And I think, the point about thinking about your health first, I know that Kathleen and I were going through the Making Impossible Choices activity, and she referenced being on an airplane and putting your mask on first before dealing with the child. Same thing as an employer. You're in your workplace. You need to think about yourself and your health first before being able to bring your A game to your work for that day. So I really think that health perspective is very important. Okay, Bill, what's one innovative program or practice your company has put into place to better support ALICE employees?
Well, I think it still goes back to the entire Thrive program and into the health and wellness program that we have at Banks Construction Company. By bringing Nurse Stephanie on, she's able to meet with our employees out in the field, out where they're working, talk to them about their mental health issues and what services we can provide for them and their other medical problems that they might have, for example, high blood pressure or some of the other metabolic testing that we do with Banks Construction Company. But going back to the Thrive at Work program, it really came down to our culture that DJ mentioned earlier and our values. And we want to look out after our employees and where can we have the greatest impact. Banks Construction Company has, been a community participant in terms of giving for a number of years. And we wanted to try and help our employees and have the greatest impact with them. And that was how we started the Thrive at Work program with, like I said earlier, with the partnership of Trident United Way and allowing them to find the resources that they needed and to help them, just as I said earlier, just become better employees and better participants in the community.
Great. And as a reminder, Thrive at Work is a new program that was piloted at Banks. So they were the very first participant in that program. So we're super thankful for them taking the opportunity to capitalize on that program. And I think that Bill calling out mental health is also very important. We all know there's a mental health crisis going on right now. So being able to help employees face and navigate those issues is extremely important as we move on. Stephanie, how has Thrive at Work paired with wellness support changed in an employee situation? So how has Thrive at Work paired with wellness support improved an employee situation?
Oh yeah, like I want to tell stories.
Tell them. We love stories.
Okay. I'll tell you kind of a recent one. So we have day shift and we have night shift, and so I was out visiting a night crew a while back, and so I'll check blood pressure sometimes, and my folks can be kind of competitive even when it comes to blood pressure. Who's got the best? Who's got the worst? I don't know. But I had this young man that came over and he was like, "Hey, Nurse Stephanie, can you mind checking my blood pressure?" And I was like, "Sure." And I opened my car door and say, "Sit right there for a little bit and relax, and I'll get it in a second." And to look at him, he definitely did not look like somebody who might have high blood pressure, because most of my folks who have higher blood pressure are a little bit bigger than him. But anyway, I started checking his blood pressure, and I just couldn't believe I couldn't believe it. I mean, literally, it was like 173 over 98. And now that doesn't floor me anymore, okay? I know y'all are in there going, "Oh my gosh, call EMS," but no, he wasn't symptomatic or anything. But it turns out he actually had a history of hypertension, that he had a family history too. And he had been prescribed medication, but he had run out, and he no longer went to primary care because he was uninsured. And so he didn't have that option. He also he had several kids at home, and that he was also supporting. So anyway, I got that information from him, and we talked about our Thrive at Work program too. But also, I knew on my end I needed to connect with a provider that was going to work, how this was going to work. And so, long story short, but we were able to get him connected with, there's a direct primary care in North Charleston, Neighbors Med now, that, they don't take insurance, but that works out fine. And so he was super interested in that. It was near where he lived anyway. And so connecting with Thrive at Work, he did the intake with them, was eligible, and we were able to pay for him to get regular primary care, to get started. And he also is agreed to do the coaching. There's some financial coaching because he realized, he also ended up, not long after that, his whole crew had to go to day shift. So they don't get the shift differential anymore, right? So that's a budget hit for people. And so we were able to get him set up with primary care right away. So he's, his chronic condition is being managed. And he also, we're having open enrollment soon for benefits. So talking to him about health insurance and how could he afford that, and we do make it very, very affordable for our employees. But, one of the things this is going to do is not only, obviously, will it keep him safe and help him manage this chronic condition, and we provide blood pressure monitors for home use for all of our employees who have diagnosis of hypertension also. But, if he does sign up for our health insurance, he's going to start that in January, and he's going to come on board already managing this chronic condition instead of coming on board in January as an ER visit or hospitalization, right? And so on so many levels, I think that, has helped all the way around. So.
Yeah, and that actually reminds me, of the question during our Making Impossible Choices activity with the medication refill versus reaching out for a speech therapist for your child. With this program, he would be able to get both, going to his employer to find a solution for the medication issue, then being able to also do the speech therapy. So I think that really highlights the importance of really guiding and helping with those impossible choices as well. So thank you, Stephanie. Bill, how have you seen these efforts affect your workforce, whether in retention, morale, or overall well-being?
Well, it's a combination of both the Thrive at Work and what you heard Nurse Stephanie talking about. I mean, her being out in the field and being able to talk to our employees and being an advocate for their health and their well-being, I mean, I believe that just creates loyalty and trust with employees. They have built, Nurse Stephanie has built an amazing amount of trust with our employees. They'll talk to her about anything. And part of the program with Thrive at Work is anonymity. And that's an important part of the program. So being able to measure all of the improvements in retention and some of the intangibles that I just talked about, the trust and the loyalty and wanting to be at work and being a valuable member of Banks Construction Company, those are difficult to measure. But we know that we're doing the right thing, or we're trying to do the right thing here to help our employees. So that's the measurement that we'll use. That we'll know that we're doing those things. I'll tell a story as well that impacted me. We have certain limits on each employee's annual, assistance. And if there's an issue, our HR department, Nurse Stephanie, they can come talk to me about it, and I can override that. So we had a situation earlier this summer where it was a single mom. She's a triaxle truck driver, and she lives with her father and her two children. One is a special needs child, about 7 years old, and the other was a preteen, 12 or 13, I believe. And her father would take care of the children while she worked. Well, he became ill and was hospitalized. So just as we've talked all morning long about all these choices that we all have to make sometimes, she had to make the difficult choice of staying home. Well, that put her behind at work, not being able to get hours, not being compensated. Then, the waterfall starts to crest, and it all starts piling on, getting behind in rent. So we were able to help her with her rent and get her over this time with her father, and get her through that difficult time. Well, again, hopefully, that word gets out. Other employees see how we treat her and other employees, and we have Nurse Stephanie. So it builds the loyalty that hopefully will increase retention, help increase retention and decrease turnover.
Yes.
I wanted to say, I wanted to say about that story too. That was a real team effort because with the United Way and between us, because it was a pretty hefty amount that she needed to pay the landlord to be out of eviction, and so I think they even connected her. There were other resources, and she was able to pull in a little bit. And then between us and her, and I think I don't know if there was a church involved or, where's Kathy? Easily. It was such a team effort. And I mean, I think that's exactly what we're talking about today, too, so.
Yeah, and to pivot just a second, I know that the two have been talking a lot about our Thrive at Work program. Are there any questions from the audience as to what is the components of Thrive at Work that they might be able to answer as we allude to it? Yes, in the back.
It seems to me you've got some opportunity to do some outcome measurement regarding
retention and recruitment and those kind of things. Have you got those in place, or are you looking at putting those in place?
Not yet. It's just really more anecdotal information because we don't really keep track of, the tenure of the employees. United Way is doing all that for us. And because of the anonymity, we don't have any names associated with them typically. But it's an improvement that we could work on as we go forward. As we said, it's a pilot program, and just trying to get the resources out to the employees has been the priority so far. Yeah, if I didn't mention this earlier, but ILSA has been a tremendous part of our program and getting it kicked off and helping us keep track of all the data. So thank you, ILSA, for all your work with working with Banks Construction.
Thank you, Bill. It's been a pleasure. That was a really great question, and we are tracking that information. We started the program in September 2024. What year is it? 2024. It's been 12 months. We have served 80 individuals. That's different individuals, so you can imagine the household impact that's creating too. So let's say it is 3 to 4 members of household, so that could be in the upwards of 250, 300 individuals served. We know that the major categories for assistance and requests, it's not going to come as a surprise: housing, utilities, transportation. Transportation, we have also seen, does not only come in a form of gas card or bus pass, it also comes in a form of flat tire. It comes in a form of overdue DMV bills that we are helping with. And then ultimately, the impact that this will make on the employer, like Banks Construction and Bill and Reed and their team, is retention. And we are looking at those statistics as well. We asked sort of early on, just 12 months of data, but what we are seeing is that folks who have been with the company longer and received assistance from the program, the retention is at around 94%. So really, really great data. We are grateful for Banks Construction renewing the program into the second year, so we'll have even more data coming forward. And overall, I mean, the possibilities for data and analytics and predictive analytics, I mean, are really limitless, and we're just scratching the surface. But Bill, your HR department has been really great to work with. Thank you for sharing data, and thank you for allowing to run this important program in the community.
And I think an important point that Bill made as well is that it is anonymous. So that has the employee feeling better about going to someone that's not their employer and being able to confide in someone that's separate. And I think that's a very important point for how Trident United Way is involved in there. Are there any more questions? A question right over there.
Oh. Hi, Matt Bailey, Medical University of South Carolina. First of all, I want to congratulate you on an incredible program. It sounds like it's doing a lot of amazing work. Second, I had a quick question on the dissemination of information to your employees. How do they know that this program is available to them? I'm not super familiar with Banks Construction. I'm still new to the Low Country, but it sounds like it's a pretty large company and you have a lot of employees. So how do you let them know that this program is available to them?
So we have, 425, something like that, employees in our company. And one of our unique challenges is that, as you notice, as you drive around the Low Country, we've got projects everywhere, right? And we're in Walterboro, and we're in Somerville, and all over. So our crews are spread out, and so they don't, people don't all come together in one location every morning and then go out to that's not how it works. And so it is a challenge to be able to communicate this, and so we've got a few different avenues that we use. I am an avenue because I go to crew visits, and I'm constantly visiting crews, and so we had, I think we had some little cards. The United Way worked with us, and we had our logo branded, and we have a phone number, and we have a QR code that's very specific. It's just for Banks employees. And it goes directly to a line. They can leave their information, and they'll receive a call back within 48 hours. I think it's very quick turnaround. And so getting those out to everybody. And then we have a social media app for employees called Blink. I don't know if you know about it, but I'm a big fan. We should keep it forever, Bill. I love it. I might love it a lot too because I have a wellness channel on there that I can post. Nurse Stephanie posts, so about lots of health stuff. But it is a great way to get people, looking at that, looking at our different posts, and so we're using that, and I think word of mouth also because people pass around when they got a good thing, something helped them, then it gets passed around, and our leadership too because we have superintendents and that are over crews and foremen, and really encouraging them because they care about their people. I mean, this is amazing. Group of employees and leaders, and they really care about each other, and so they hear things from their crew members. Sometimes they know about the hardships going on, and so being able to educate them about our resources, and they'll pass it on too, and so a lot of different ways like that and we're improving all the time. I feel like we're learning more. So
Thank you so much. And I really think that the stories add value to, we hear Thrive at Work and we wonder what that is, but hearing these stories was so valuable. And thank you so much for offering all the insight. In terms of Thrive at Work, you will hear more about it because that is an important piece of our programming that will continue to grow. Because again, we're looking for Alice where they are, and they are in places of employment. So it's something you'll definitely hear about. But thank you all so much for your participation. And as we leave today, at the end of this, I'd like everybody, you always have a call of action. Think to yourselves and say, how can we show up at my place of employment for Alice families? What can we do that is really showing up and changing the lives of our Alice employees? Thank you very much, and thanks to the panelists.